Hello, beloved community. I am the Reverend Catherine Britton, minister at Sylvan United Church, Camp Pringle, and most recently, the Abbey Church. And I am here in Sylvan United Church on our first Sunday of Advent. It is tradition of Christians around the world to light candles through Advent. And we join in with many cultures and many faiths around the world that celebrate the shortening of the days and the lengthening of the night by lighting candles, by celebrating light. Hanukkah in the Jewish tradition, Diwali in the Sikh faith. And so in our own Christian tradition, we have an Advent wreath. And this beautiful wreath is a circle. And it's in our church, a Celtic one, which is very appropriate for our culture and our community. And the circle is a reminder of God's love, which has no beginning and no ending. And so each Sunday, we will light one more and one more and one more candle until our circle is complete. And then on Christmas Eve, we light the Christ candle. We will, in our recorded services, have different people lighting the candle because that's our tradition. We have different families, different groupings of people come and light the candle every week. And so I will be traveling around with the camera and the Advent wreath so we can continue that tradition. But today, I'm going to light the first candle. And I'm doing this here alone in the sanctuary by myself, because I'm inspired by a quote I found that Leadership has pulled out of a series of workshops that Diane Strickland does. And the quote is, "We call this candle hope because it is the only candle strong enough to shine by itself in the darkness." We begin our time of worship, our season of Advent, and the Christian New Year by lighting the candle of hope. Come, let us worship God. A reading from the prophet Isaiah. chapter 64. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so that the mountains would quake at your presence, as when fires kindled brushwood and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, so that the nations might tremble at your presence. When you did awesome deeds that we did not expect, you came down. The mountains quaked at your presence. From ages past, no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God but you, who works for those who wait for him. You meet those who gladly do right, those who remember you in your ways. But you were angry, and we sinned. Because you hid yourself, we transgressed. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a filthy cloth. We all fade like a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, take us away. There is no one who calls on your name or attempts to take hold of you. For you have hidden your face from us and have delivered us into the hand of our iniquity. Yet, O Lord, you are our parent. We are the clay, and you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand. Here ends our reading from God's holy word. Thanks be to God.
But in those days, after that suffering, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the human one coming in clouds, in great glory and power. And he will send out the angels, and he will gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of the heavens. Look, from the fig tree, learn its lesson. When its branch becomes tender and it puts out its leaves, then you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things taking place, you will know he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. As for the day and the hour, no one knows, not the angels in heaven, nor the Son, only the Father. Beware, be alert, for you don't know when the time is coming. It's like a man going on a journey. As he's leaving, he puts his slaves in charge, each one with a different job, and then he commands his doorkeeper to be on the watch. Be awake then, for you don't know when the master of the house is coming. Will it be the evening, at midnight, at cockcrow, at dawn? Or else he may come and find you asleep when he arrives suddenly. What I tell you, I tell all. Be awake.
What are you waiting for? It seems that we've been in pause mode for a while now, doesn't it? We're all waiting for something. What are you waiting for? Vaccine? School to be back in? School to be canceled? The restrictions to be defined? The toilet paper to be restocked? The store to reopen? What are you waiting for? Worship to be in person, the live stream to start, the next Zoom meeting, the person at the Zoom meeting to unmute themselves, work to call you back in, someone to help you come take care of the children who are home while you try to work from home. The 3 o'clock briefing numbers, some kind of certainty. What are you waiting for? We're not very good at waiting, are we? Even before all of this, waiting was something we needed to distract ourselves from. Mindlessly scrolling through screens if we had even more than a few seconds to wait in a waiting room or stand in a line. We live in an age of instant gratification, and we don't like waiting for anything. Waiting can be frustrating, can be stagnant, can be a place of listlessness, almost lifelessness. Last week with the children's program, I read part of Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss, where after the excitement of racing off on your own, the main character hits the waiting place. Dr. Seuss writes, "You'll get so confused that you'll start into race down the long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward the most useless place, the waiting place. Waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, waiting around for a yes or a no, waiting for your hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting." It's a gloomy picture of life not happening because everyone's just waiting for something to happen before they can get on with things. And yet, here we are in that waiting place. We're at a place and time in history where we're just waiting because it's all we can do, isn't it? We can't change this virus and make things go back to the way they were, or the way that we wish that they were, or the way we want them to be. We're stuck in this waiting place. And it's not fun, and it's not comfortable. It's scary, it's strange, it's frustrating and infuriating. And I, for one, just want it to be done. And so this Advent, I am feeling that Isaiah reading in a way that I have never felt it before. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. It's a lament, pure and simple. It's a cry from the heart. God, where are you? The world is falling apart. We are scared. We're losing everything that we believed is certain. Where are you? Tear open those heavens and come down and explain yourself. God, we need you. Where are you? Isaiah's message is one of lament. And it's a brave message because it's a real message. Isaiah was a realist. He is writing to his people who are in exile after being conquered and shipped out of their promised land by the victorious Babylonians. And he spent the early part of the book telling the people that they've got what they deserve for being greedy and forgetting who and whose they were. But here, in this reading, in chapter 64, he acknowledges the lament, the pain, the fear of that upheaval. And he gives voice to the fear and the despair and the demand for God to get down here and do something. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, God, because we are tired of the uncertainty, of the fear, of the powerlessness, of the waiting. It's a prayer torn straight from the heart. But God doesn't tend to answer our prayers the way we want them answered, does God? The people cried out to God to save them from slavery, and they got 40 years wandering in the wilderness. The people wanted a kingdom like everyone else, and God gave them the command to care most for those who had the least. The people wanted to be like everyone else, and they got conquered and sent to Babylon, where the policy of assimilation tried really hard to make them exactly like everyone else. We cry out for help, for hope, and we get a baby born to an unwed mother who is far from home, who grew up and surrounded himself with ragtag followers and social outcasts, who was executed as a political prisoner. God isn't going to give us what we want necessarily. God is not Santa Claus. We don't get what we want because we've been good girls and boys this year. God will not give us what we want, but God will give us what we need and wait with us until we've realized that. What are you waiting for? We are in the waiting time, the preparing time of our church year, our liturgical year. This is the first Sunday of Advent, the beginning of the Christian year. And during Advent, Christians around the world light candles in a wreath, and they form the circle which symbolizes that God's love has no beginning and no ending. And we light the candles one by one, building our circle of light, even as we enter into the darkest time of year. And we always, always, always start with one single candle, the candle of hope. Now, Reverend Diane Strickland, who is a United Church minister, amongst other amazing things, she reminds us of the power of beginning our year and our Advent wreath with this candle. She says, we call this candle hope because it is the only one that is strong enough to shine by itself in the darkness. Hope is not afraid of the reality. It wants to know every corner of it so it can shine as effectively as possible. We call this candle hope because it is the only one that is strong enough to shine by itself in the darkness. What are you waiting for? And how are you doing that waiting? We are in the waiting time of Advent, and it is not a time to distract ourselves. It is not a time of negativity to get through as quickly as possible, or a passive absence of real life. Advent begins with hope in order to be a time of active waiting. Active waiting. A waiting that isn't built on false hope or empty promises, but on a hope that is strong enough to shine by itself in the darkness. And we who celebrate this time, who have the rituals and traditions of our faith community to help us shape our waiting, we are called to go through this Advent season, one of uncertainty in the world and the ups and downs of our own personal lives, with hope built on God's track record as recorded through our sacred story and our personal faith stories. We know God will show up, and we know that it will absolutely not be in the way that we expect, but God will show up, just as God has done throughout the ages. Advent is the waiting time, and whatever it is you are waiting for, we do so with hope in God who's alive and active in our world. Our call is to remember that we are God's people and God is our God. Our call is to wait with hope, watch with hope for God's presence in surprising and unexpected ways. Our call is to light one candle, and then one more, and one more, and one more, and one more. To be a beacon of light, a keeper of light, a flicker of light for those who need to see real hope. Hope that is strong enough to stand alone in the darkness. What are you waiting for? And how will you do that waiting? However it is, may the God of hope be with you in this Advent season, whatever it brings. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Hi, and thank you for calling The Waiting Room. Your call is important to us. So we can understand what you're waiting for, please listen to the following options. For justice for the oppressed, dial 1. For peace and tranquility, dial 2. For an end to war and bloodshed, dial 3. For fulfillment and satisfaction, dial 4. For answers to life's unanswered questions, dial 5. For reconnection with dead relatives, pets, and historical figures, dial 6. For all other inquiries, please hold. Your call is important to us. Be patient, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming.
Our final blessing is from Jan Richardson from her book, Circle of Grace. Blessed are you who bear the light. Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything else seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where the deepest night can be seen, the fire that shines forth in you in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illumines every broken thing it finds. As we go into this Advent season, may the blessing of God, the Creator, of Christ, the Sustainer, and the Spirit, our advocate and guide, go with you. Go into this waiting time with hope. Amen.